Framework computer has Hitler particles, says GNOME spokesman. That is quite possibly the most ridiculous headline that I have ever written in my entire career. And I've written some doozies of headlines for the Lunduke Journal and before that. There's been crazy news over the last several years. But Framework Computer has Hitler particles, says GNOME spokesman, is nuts. And here's the craziest part about that. 100% accurate. Lunduke, you're being sensationalist. You're being inflammatory. That's 100% accurate. That's a quote. It's even up on the screen right now. It's insane that this is happening. So Framework Computer, this is the short version, and I'll give you all the details as we go, has endorsed DHH's Omarchy Linux and the Hyprland window manager and Wayland compositor. In response to Framework Computer endorsing those software projects, the leftist open source activists, which as soon as I say that phrase, you know it's already going to be nuts, they call Framework Computer, quote, far-right, fascist, white supremacist, transphobic mother effers. Not a joke. And it's ramping up. This is all really just kickstarted over the last couple of hours. And I've just started posting some of these things up over on X so people can follow these screenshots as all of this stuff gets posted out there. But I wanted to walk you through what's been posted so far. The little bit of background here. So over the last just few months, because Omarchy Linux has only existed for a few months, since was it the beginning of July, end of June, just a few months, right? Framework Computer, who makes those adorable, highly modular laptops. You know, you can upgrade the battery and you can upgrade the main board in them. They're really quite cool. They've been posting pictures of their Framework laptops running Omarchy Linux. Why? Because it looks cool. I mean, Omarchy makes for some good pictures and screenshots. It's very, as the kids say nowadays, ricey. It's cool looking, lots of transparencies and lots of cool terminal text user interface apps and whatnot. And it's very neat. Well, yesterday, Framework posted a couple of posts over on social media and the like that made it clear that Omarchy is kind of rad and is kind of the future. They posted one that said Omarchy is the new, and then they supplied a Windows XP product key, right? So they're like, this is kind of the future, right? That's the statement from Framework. And Framework has also become a contributor financially to the Hyprland display compositor project, right? And I thought this was fairly interesting. So I posted the following. It's nice to see Framework Computer promoting a non-political Linux distribution, Omarchy, for a change. Framework used to promote Bazite, which is a project which bans conservatives and promotes themselves with trans cartoons aimed at children. So this is a positive change. That's the quote I put up there. And if you don't know the background on Bazite, it's really not that important to this story. But essentially it is this. Bazite is a Fedora-based, loosely Linux distribution that, again, it targets itself towards kids as a gaming distribution using bi and trans cartoons. And so it's a little bit strange. They also have policies where they ban you if you're a conservative. If you say something that's a little conservative, you're not allowed to be part of the project. If you link to a Lunduke Journal article, for example, you're banned. I think they've banned me, that sort of thing. So I mentioned that this is a nice change of pace because Omarchy Linux is just not political, right? I haven't seen Omarchy make any political statements, unless you count a desire to make really cool looking Linux distributions politics, right? But just the same, Omarchy, because it's part of the project started by DHH, who has become a polarizing figure for many people in open source, and Hyprland, which is on Omarchy, has become a polarizing thing within a lot of people in open source as well. Of course, all of the leftist activists are pouncing on this. They're furious that framework would promote these fascists. And here's just a handful of it. Would love to hear their reasoning on sponsoring far-right beep bags, though. I'm censoring myself there. You can see it on the screen. I forgot to censor a few words. These people swear a lot, and I try to censor them, but sometimes I miss in the screenshots. My apologies, everyone, for the stuff you're seeing. Now I actually feel bad, says another activist, about having a framework. Another person says, I gotta say, for a company that seems to pride itself on its ethics, framework shilling super hard for Omarchy on Bird's site, meaning Twitter, is an extremely bad look. I'm kind of surprised that I haven't seen anyone mention it. Of course, there's been huge numbers of leftist activists mentioning it at this point, so yeah. When the framework desktop was announced and pretty much all of the marketing that was AI crap, I found it a little off-putting, but okay, it's not for me, I guess. Going out of your way to promote a white supremacist .files cosplaying as a distro is so beyond the pale that I can't even wrap my head around it. Come on, framework computer. These are the people you are pandering towards. And then they link to the Lunduke Journal. They don't like the Lunduke Journal. Doesn't make them happy. And of course, that was early on. It ramped up from there. And when I say early on, I mean 3 hours ago. This has just been escalating over the last couple of hours, and it's getting pretty extreme. Here's some more. Here's another person with a Palestinian flag in their bio, in their name, actually. Good job, framework computer. I now know that if I buy any upgrades or replacement parts for my framework 13, I am directly contributing money to a bunch of loser transphobes and racists. This is exactly what I want from a niche laptop company. Why are you destroying your reputation to throw money at bigots? What next? Going to announce an all-white laptop edition in partnership with DHH, right? Oh my gosh, white supremacy, right? The other people are like, they're sponsoring Hyprland. Mother beepers. Mother effers. They're sponsoring Hyprland. And then, of course, the GNOME Foundation gets into the play. Jordan Petrides, who is one of the spokespeople for GNOME, actually writes GNOME press releases, writes what's new in GNOME blog posts, is one of the most prominent spokespeople for GNOME and the GNOME Foundation, says the following: F fascists and everyone who is willing to collaborate with them, especially pathetic when it's done to leech Twitter clout. Someone responds, framework? Yeah, that is so disappointing. The GNOME Foundation, this is where it gets great. This is my favorite of all of this because it's so off the charts. It's crazy. Here's again the GNOME spokesman. Even if they backtrack, it won't change the fact that they entertain this beep. You need to have Hitler particles within you to even consider this to begin with. End quote. Hitler particles. What in the friggin' darnations is a Hitler particle? I saw other people like over on X were like, is that just cooties? Are Hitler particles cooties? I don't, Hitler particles. I'd never seen anyone accused of having Hitler particles before. That one's a new one for me. I mean, I've seen the fascist, the far right, the white supremacist, the transphobe, all the swear words in the book. Okay, yeah, sure. I'm used to being called that, whether or not it's accurate, it doesn't matter. I'm used to being called that. But the Hitler particles. So the Framework Computer Company, the company that makes modular laptops, has Hitler particles, according to the GNOME Foundation and the GNOME Project. Now, here's where another little turn this all took. Let me go down here and make sure I get this right. So the CEO of MNT, which is a Linux laptop maker, decided to get involved in this. This happened just within the last hour. They've latched on to these attacks coming from all of the leftist activists against Framework Computer, because Framework Computer is a competitor of theirs, right? MNT makes, some modular laptops and computer hardware as well. They're over in Europe, and that's what they do, right? So Framework is one of their competitors, and they decided to use this, MNT did, as a marketing opportunity. Quote, I appreciate how Framework are doing a bit of all involuntary marketing for us today, says Lucy Lucas Hartman. And Lucy Lucas Hartman is the CEO of MNT Research, the people who make the MNT laptops and whatnot. Lucy Lucas Hartman identifies as a non-binary, queer, vegan, trans person with a they them set of pronouns. One of the MNT one of the MNT supporters chimed in with this to say, I'm laughing thinking about it already. Quote, I'm very glad I'm sorry, this is funny to me. I'm very glad I didn't buy the Framework 12 a few days ago. I'd rather, this is a real quote, ladies and gentlemen. This is a real quote. This is not a joke. This is not sarcastic. This is a real quote from someone who is anti-Framework, anti-DHH, anti-Hyprland, anti-Omarchy, and everything else, right? Quote, I'd rather buy a laptop that comes in a vegan sleeve from a company led by a trans person than buy Fashtech. I don't know quite what to make of all of that. Then the editor of OS News jumps on board. Now, you may be like, the editor of osnews.com, who's that? Well, this gentleman named Thom, he's jumped on board. And you may remember him from such past exploits as, hey, everybody, go kill the Jewish conservative known as Lunduke because he's a Nazi and he needs to die. You may remember when he was encouraging people to hunt me down and murder me. He's a gem. He says, quote, if you want a repairable open source laptop and you're put off by Framework, by recent events, look at MNT's laptops, right? So he's encouraging people to go out there and support the vegan sleeve, trans-led, non-Fashtech MNT laptop. What is going on? Hitler particles. This is all real. This is so hideously stupid. It is unbelievable. Now here, I want to make something very, very clear here. And I want to bring up a quote because I think this really gets to the heart of it. And again, this comes from the GNOME spokesman. Quote, even if they, Framework, backtrack, it won't change the fact that they entertained this beep. And then he talks about Hitler particles. But this is a really critical part of this. It does not matter what Framework Computer does now, right? If Framework Computer comes out and makes a big grand gesture trying to placate the leftist activists, like, oh, we didn't know we were supporting fascist, or oh, we think love is love, and we blah blah blah. If they, no matter what they say, it does not matter. It does not matter if they fall on their hands and knees and begin mercilessly whipping themselves to a bloody pulp. They will not ever be forgiven, right? That is the track record here. Once the leftist activists decide you're bad, you're a fascist, you're a white supremacist, you're transphobic, you're far right, you have Hitler particles. I mean, come on. Once, according to the leftist activists, you have Hitler particles, they're never, ever going to be okay with you again. Not ever. Not for a second, and it does not matter ever what you do or say. right? So I'm saying this flat out to the people at Framework. Don't pander to them. You have an opportunity now to embrace what you just did. And what you did was simple. You promoted software for the sake of the software. You ignored politics. You simply said, this is good software. We like it. People should use it. Maybe we'll support it and ship it. That's all you did, right? Lean into that. Tell people that you're ignoring the politics. Make a statement. Say, I'm ignoring the politics. We're just going to make great open source software. We're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to fund great open source software. In fact, they remember that little, they began making a monthly contribution to Hyprland. Come out and say, you know what? We're doubling it. We're making more contributions to Hyprland now because we're just supporting the tech, the software, the open source that's powering the amazing Framework computers. And we're not worried about what our politics are or what anyone else's politics are. We don't care. We just care about great software. Ignore all the politics. That's what you do. Because no matter what you do, you cannot win back the hardcore leftist activists, like the people over at GNOME. They're gone. You cannot ever get them back as customers. Not ever. Not one thing you say can get them back. So forget them. But what has been shown time and time again is if you come out and you say, we are non-political. And I tend to call that non-woke, but you can just say we're not being political. That works too. And you just focus on the great software, you're going to win a lot of people over very, very quickly. And you're going to win over the kind of people that vote with their wallet. They're going to whip out their cards, plop it down, and pick themselves up a new laptop. I think Framework has already seen that effect kicking off with people across the internet buying Framework laptops and desktops, installing Omarchy Linux on them, and posting pictures for everyone to see. They're like, look at my sweet, sweet new laptop from Framework running Omarchy, right? A lot of those people are running Omarchy because Omarchy is non-political. Again, I call that non-woke because the woke politics is really what we're trying to get away from. Because that's the stuff that all these people that we're quoting here today, they're all on the woke politics side. And we're just trying to get away from that stuff. But you can just say we're non-political. We're just staying out of it. Look at this sweet, sweet laptop. Look at the sweet, sweet software. Lean into it. Your sales will skyrocket. No matter what they say. No matter what these activists and political activists say. In fact, the more they double down and attack you, the more your sales will go up. You know it's true. So whatever you do, Framework, do not give into them. Now, I've made a point of not reaching out to Framework about this. Normally around one of these sorts of stories, I reach out to the company and give them a chance to provide comment and whatnot. I purposefully decided not to do that. And the reason is I don't want this to be something where it's like where Framework felt strong-armed into doing something, or Framework gets in trouble because they got quoted by Lunduke, or they worked with Lunduke, because half of these people that are activists, they hate anything where my name shows up. You'll see like a huge, like 20% of all the posts about any topic related to this will start referencing Lunduke. They go crazy when they see the word. So I want to let Framework just do them without being related. They don't need to make a statement for the Lunduke Journal. Just do them, make a post on their own, and put it out there. But that's what I personally would recommend. Ignore these people because they're crazy. I mean, this is nuts stuff. Hitler particles? Come on. Thank you to all of the Lunduke Journal subscribers for allowing me to do this sort of utterly ridiculous coverage. Someone has to. None of the other tech news outlets are going to cover this. None of them. None of them are. The only way it will be possibly covered a tiny bit by a few tech news outlets is if this story explodes, like really explodes. That's the only way that any of them will ever cover this stuff. And I was looking over it. So far this calendar year, I think the Lunduke Journal has published 250, I don't know, some odd stories. So far this calendar year, roughly one a day, right? Roughly one news story a day. I think around 9 out of 10 of those stories, roughly 90%, were not covered at all by any other tech news outlet. Not one. Not a podcast, not a YouTuber, not The Verge or Wired or Gizmodo or Ours or The Register or any of them. They didn't even touch it. Not that they covered it wrong, not that they covered the alternative viewpoint, not that they didn't cover it enough, but they didn't cover those stories at all. And you know, this story is probably just statistically going to be yet another example of the only place this gets covered is the Lunduke Journal. And it's an important story. I mean, when we've got leadership and spokespeople from one of the largest Linux open source organizations and foundations and desktop environments in GNOME speaking out and calling Linux hardware manufacturers people who are filled with Hitler particles, that's crazy. That's craziness. And it's not craziness coming from the Lunduke Journal. All I'm doing is saying, click. Look at this, guys. That's crazy. And it's just, they just keep doing it. Someone has to record this insanity because it's happening and it's affecting a lot of companies. It's impacting a huge number of contributors and users, and people need to record this sort of thing. So thank you to all the Lunduke Journal subscribers for making it possible. All of the shows, everything the Lunduke Journal produces, every single story is released for free on a million platforms. An RSS podcast feed, it's on Substack, it's on YouTube and Locals and X and Rumble and on and on and on and on. And if you want to support what the Lunduke Journal is doing, getting this out there, go to lunduke.com, and there's a couple of links on the right-hand side of the page that say how to support the Lunduke Journal. You can become a monthly or yearly subscriber. You can become a lifetime subscriber. There is a metric boatload of perks. All the shows are free for everyone, but you can also get access to an exclusive forum. You can get access to all of the shows as DRM-free MP4 files. So yeah, if you're a subscriber, you go to lunduke.com, and there's a link that says here's the perks for subscribers. Click that link. It'll show you how to get access to the exclusive forum. And once you're on the forum, which is free because you're a subscriber, you get access to all of the DRM free downloads for every show released this year and last year and going forward. They're all MP4s, they're all DRM free, they're all cataloged by date and by headline. So you can just grab the shows you want, throw them on a thumb drive, burn them to a DVD or a DivX disc or whatever you want to do. Convert the darn thing to a format viewable on a Palm Pilot. I don't care how you want to watch it, but you've got it. And there's a whole bunch of ebooks on history, on goofy stuff and jokes and all sorts of things. And of course, if you want to become a lifetime subscriber, that's available as well. Again, it's all up at lunduke.com. And huge thank you to absolutely every subscriber, because I couldn't do this without you. If I was one of the tech news outlets that was completely reliant on big tech money in order to stay afloat, this story wouldn't get told by anybody. Nobody. I mean, seriously. Look at the hundreds of news stories over the last year to 2 years that no one would have covered in the tech industry at all. It wouldn't even have been mentioned by any news outlet if the Lunduke Journal didn't exist. And that's because of all of you. You guys made that possible. If big tech sponsored the Lunduke Journal, I wouldn't be able to cover any of this. The moment I covered this story, I'd have 5 different companies pulling their sponsorships and ad runs and everything, and I would go out of business immediately. So this exists because of all of you becoming subscribers. So thank you. Go to lunduke.com, click on all the things that are on lunduke.com, and make it happen. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes, across this inner tube of ours, I do declare end broadcast.